This psychological trick is so dangerous that it was even banned from schools. They say the most powerful psychological tricks are the ones you're never supposed to learn, because once you understand them, you stop being a follower. You stop reacting emotionally. You start controlling the room silently, instantly. And that makes you dangerous. In 1984, a strange tactic surfaced in a military psychology experiment. It wasn't just effective, it was too effective. Within minutes, it turned confident soldiers into silent, obedient followers. They weren't tortured, they weren't threatened, they were simply spoken to differently. That technique was quietly shelved. The document was archived in a black file, labeled for internal use only. Years later, a piece of that file was leaked by a former behavioral specialist. And today, you're about to learn the one part that made it too dangerous to teach. But be warned, once you understand how it works, you'll start seeing people differently. And more importantly, you'll know how to bend them. During the experiment, subjects were placed in a room, no weapons, no threats, just a man sitting across from them. Calm, silent. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't even ask questions. He just observed them and spoke a few lines that followed a specific rhythm. That rhythm triggered a strange response. The soldiers didn't feel forced. They felt like they were the ones choosing to agree, to submit, even to obey. But here's what disturbed the researchers the most. When they asked the soldiers why they followed him, none of them could give a clear answer. They just said, it felt right. It made sense. That's when they realized the effect wasn't logical, it was neurological. It was bypassing conscious thought and going straight to the instinctive brain. The same part that responds to fear, power, attraction, and control. And this man, using nothing but a tiny behavioral glitch, was switching off resistance, like flipping a light switch. Now the question is, what exactly was he doing that made trained soldiers melt in minutes? You'll understand the full pattern in a moment, but first, you need to understand how your brain betrays you without you even realizing it. Every second of every conversation, your brain is doing one thing on autopilot, filtering reality. You think you're listening to what the other person is saying. You're not. You're scanning, do I trust them? Are they dominant or weak? Are they like me or above me? And this filtering happens in milliseconds, before a single sentence is even processed, before your logic has a chance to speak. It happens in the limbic system, the oldest, most primal part of your brain, the part wired for survival, hierarchy, and surrender. Here's where it gets dangerous. A skilled manipulator doesn't speak to your logic. He speaks directly to your limbic instincts, using a combination of body language, micro-expressions, and pacing that tricks your brain into seeing them as an authority, a leader, or even a threat. Your defenses go down. Your brain begins to follow without permission. And by the time you realize something feels off, it's already too late. Think about the last time you were convinced by someone, not because of what they said, but because of how calmly, how rhythmically, how effortlessly they spoke. You nodded before understanding. You agreed without thinking. And afterward, you couldn't even explain why. That is the blind spot. The same pattern used on soldiers is now being used in sales calls, in political speeches, even on social media. It bypasses your logic, your education, your experience, and goes straight to your survival wiring. But what's even more terrifying, anyone can learn it. The man in the room didn't start with facts. He didn't start with questions. He started with a pause. That pause wasn't silence, it was tension. A gap, just long enough for the other person's brain to start filling in the blanks, subconsciously wondering, why isn't he speaking yet? Is he analyzing me? Is he more powerful than me? That's step one. Trigger internal dialogue in the other person's mind before you even say a word. Step two, calibrated eye contact. Not aggressive, not passive, but deliberate, with brief, controlled holds, just long enough to make the other person feel seen, yet slightly uncertain. You're not looking at them, you're looking through them. Step 3. Pacing and mirroring. The man would subtly match the other person's body position, tone, or phrasing, not to copy them, but to signal, "I'm like you." That unlocks trust, even in people trained to resist it. And just when the subject let their guard down, Step 4 came in, a disarming statement, something unpredictable, something that didn't fit a script. Because the moment you break pattern, the brain freezes for a split second. And in that freeze, you install the command. It sounds wild, but this technique was labeled by military documents as a compliance disruption cascade. And the reason they feared it? It worked, even on people who knew it was coming. Now here's the part nobody teaches. There was one specific signal buried in the man's delivery that activated all 4 of those steps without needing perfect words, tone, or timing. A single non-verbal action that made people feel like this person must be followed. And it worked in under 30 seconds. That signal is the final piece of the puzzle. The reason this technique got blacklisted, and the reason you're still here listening. The final signal wasn't a hand gesture. It wasn't a word or even a posture. It was the slow blink. That's it. A deliberate slow blink, not lazy, not tired, but controlled, precise, timed right after the subject finished speaking. Here's why it works in nature. The slow blink is a dominance cue. Predators use it to signal control. It tells the other brain, "I'm not threatened, I'm not impressed, and I'm not in a rush." The limbic brain reads that cue and makes a snap decision. This person is calm and in control. Add that to the earlier steps, the pause, the eye contact, the mirroring, the break in pattern, and the slow blink becomes the anchor. It finalizes the command. It's the silent stamp of authority. That's why it worked, because it manipulated hierarchy recognition. The subconscious mind doesn't follow the most logical voice. It follows the one that feels like a leader. And leaders don't rush. Leaders blink slowly. That's why the black file trick was dangerous, because it showed how power can be projected without saying anything. And once someone learns that, they don't need to convince. But here's your final warning. Never use this to fake value. Because when your presence says control but your actions show chaos, people will turn on you. And once that signal breaks, it's almost impossible to rebuild. Use this to lead, not to deceive. Because now, you know what 99% of the world will never see. By the way, I've got something very special for you. The Sigma's Black Book of Untouchable Power. It's an e-book that holds the forbidden knowledge used by high-level thinkers. But this will be deleted soon. The elites don't want this out. So check the description or pinned comment to grab it before it's gone. Now you know the signal, but this was just the beginning. There are tricks even darker, even more dangerous, ones I can't share here. So if you're ready to go deeper into the black file, I've left a second channel where the real secrets live. No filters, no limits, just raw psychological power. The link's in the description and pinned comment below. You've already stepped through the first door. Don't stop here. Now listen carefully. If you want to become powerful, then join Dark Mindset and control the game. Or stay weak forever. The choice is yours.